Hey everyone. Ever get stuck at a crossroads in life? Where every path looks tempting, but also kind of scary.
I think we've all been there at some point.
It's that feeling of, oh man, gotta make the right decision. Like there's only one perfect choice out there.
Yeah, like life's some giant multiple choice test.
Totally. But today, we're diving deep into why choosing a path can feel so freaking daunting. We're using this awesome podcast called Right versus Wrong, Why There's No Such Thing in Life, to guide us.
Sounds intriguing.
It is. And get this, one of the first things they connect is our need for escapism. Like, think about it when someone's like, I don't watch porn.
Yeah.
Maybe they're genuinely content and don't feel that pull toward seeking fulfillment somewhere else.
That's a really interesting way to put it. It gets to the heart of the psychology of escapism, right? Like when our everyday lives aren't fulfilling our needs and desires, we start looking for satisfaction elsewhere.
Makes sense.
Could be anything from getting lost in fantasy worlds to chasing external validation, anything to fill that void.
So next time you're wrestling with a big decision, ask yourself, am I chasing what truly lights me up inside? Or am I just trying to impress everyone else?
Exactly. It's crucial to examine our motivations. Are we making choices based on what genuinely matters to us? Or are we just following the crowd, trying to live up to some external standard?
The source then goes into this whole thing about internal conflict, and this is where it gets really interesting. They argue that how we were raised, especially in school, might be messing with our ability to make decisions now.
Oh, I can see that. Remember how school was all about right and wrong answers? Good grades versus bad grades?
Don't remind me.
It's like we were drilled with this binary thinking from day one. Always a correct path, and any other choice meant you screwed up.
So we grow up terrified of making the wrong choice. We get stuck in analysis paralysis.
Right, too scared to make any choice at all.
And the podcast uses this super relatable example. Imagine trying to choose between two potential partners,
Yeah.
Sasha and Andre.
Okay, I'm listening.
Sasha totally checks all the boxes, seems like the safe choice.
Right, right.
Then there's Andre, passionate, but a bit less stable, more of an unknown.
Classic dilemma. Who do you go for?
And that's exactly the point. It's almost impossible to define the right choice,
Yeah.
especially since life's full of curveballs.
Right. What seems like a sure thing today could be completely different tomorrow.
Like the podcast says, maybe Sasha, who seemed perfect on paper, hits some unexpected roadblocks down the line, while Andre, the riskier option, ends up flourishing. You just never know.
Exactly. It's impossible to predict outcomes with absolute certainty.
So maybe instead of getting hung up on right versus wrong, we need a totally different perspective. Like, what if those wrong decisions are actually
Opportunities.
Exactly. Opportunities for growth and learning.
Well, that's a powerful reframe.
It's about seeing setbacks as stepping stones.
Yeah.
And the podcast even brings up big events like the 2008 financial crisis and the recent pandemic.
Okay, yeah.
Definitely tough times, but they forced a lot of people to reevaluate their lives.
And you know what?
Some of them came out stronger on the other side.
It's a testament to our resilience as humans.
Like, we have this incredible ability to adapt and evolve when things get tough. There's even a name for it, anti-fragility.
Okay, gotta admit, haven't heard that one before.
Me neither, until this podcast. But it basically means that challenges, even the painful ones, can make us stronger and more adaptable in the long run, like a muscle getting stronger after a workout.
Oh, I get it.
So instead of freaking out about making a mistake, maybe we should think of it as a chance to learn, grow, and become more resilient.
Yeah, and who knows? We might even stumble upon something even better than what we initially planned.
Like that saying, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. This podcast is totally making me rethink my whole approach to decision-making.
Me too.
It's not about finding the perfect decision. It's about embracing the journey, the lessons learned, the growth we experience along the way.
Right. Absolutely. It's incredibly liberating to let go of the need to be right all the time and just embrace the journey, wherever it may lead.
Totally. It's like a weight lifted off your shoulders.
Yeah.
But, okay, this is all great in theory, but how do we actually put this into practice? Like, how do we shift from feeling paralyzed by choices to actually embracing them? Like, what are some tangible steps?
Well, the podcast has some pretty solid advice. Remember that idea of thinking about decisions as experiments?
Yeah, I like that.
It takes the pressure off, right? You don't need all the answers up front. You can just focus on the process.
Gathering information, weighing options, being open to changing course along the way.
Exactly.
It's like we're acknowledging the uncertainty instead of being afraid of it.
Right. And being open to those unexpected detours because sometimes they lead to the most incredible discoveries.
Love that.
Yeah.
The key is, it's not about choosing what seems right at this very second. It's about trusting that the journey itself is valuable, regardless of the outcome.
Right. You've got it. It's so cool how this podcast makes us rethink right and wrong decisions. It's not about labeling stuff as good or bad, but seeing that each choice helps us grow.
Totally. It's like, instead of stressing over the perfect answer, we just got to keep moving forward.
Yeah, and this leads to another interesting point they make. It's about those internal struggles we face when making a decision, like that feeling of wanting to leave a situation, but being scared of what's next.
Oh, man. I know that feeling all too well. It's like, should I stay or should I go? Super paralyzing.
Right. And the podcast suggests this inability to deal with these internal conflicts is a big reason why people get stuck. And get this, they link these anxieties back to how we were raised.
Wait, so they're saying our childhood impacts our ability to make decisions as adults?
Yep. They argue that we're kind of conditioned to think in black and white, especially because of school. Remember those tests where there was only one right answer?
Yeah. All about getting that perfect score.
Exactly. Good grades, you're a star. Anything less, you're a failure. Like we were constantly bombarded with this right versus wrong, success versus failure mentality.
So basically, we grew up scared of making the wrong move.
And we carry that fear into adulthood, even though we know life isn't always so clear-cut.
Right, like real life is messy. There's so much nuance and things change all the time. What seems right today might not be tomorrow.
Totally. But that black and white thinking makes us play it safe and avoid uncertainty.
So we end up missing out on growth and learning because we're so afraid of screwing up. So how do we break free?
Well, the podcast has this radical suggestion. See decisions as experiments, like a scientist.
Experiments. Go on.
You come up with an idea, test it out, and see what happens. Sometimes your idea is right. Sometimes you discover something totally new.
Okay, I kind of like that analogy. It takes the pressure off, right?
Exactly. It's a more curious and flexible way to approach things. No more freaking out about failure. Instead, you're gathering info, trying things out, and adapting as you go.
So it's not about reaching a specific goal, but the journey of exploration.
Bingo! It's all about embracing those twists and turns, knowing that each step teaches you something.
I love that. It's like giving ourselves permission to experiment, to learn, to grow through making mistakes.
And remember, sometimes those so-called wrong turns lead to the most amazing discoveries. Those detours can be exactly what we need.
This is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting a whole new perspective on making decisions, but I gotta be honest, I still get stuck sometimes, you know?
Oh,
What if I choose wrong? What if I regret it?
totally normal to feel that way, especially with all that right path conditioning we've had. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Even if a decision doesn't go as planned, there's always something to gain from it. You learn resilience, wisdom, maybe a new perspective. Every choice, every experience helps us grow.
So it's not about avoiding those wrong turns. It's about learning how to handle them right.
Yep. Keeping an open mind, learning the lessons, remembering the journey is just as important as the destination.
And sometimes those detours lead us to where we're actually supposed to be.
Exactly. This has been so insightful. I feel like I have a whole new framework for making choices, but there's one thing that's still bugging me.
What about those people who are just naturally indecisive? Like, what if it's just not in our DNA to make good decisions?
You know, that's a really good point. We always assume decision-making is like a talent, you know? Some people are just born good at it and the rest of us are just stuck.
Right. But what if it's not about some magic ability? What if it's about learning how to make choices better?
That would be pretty awesome. Right? It means we're not stuck with whatever bad habits we have. We can actually get better at this whole decision thing.
Okay, I'm already liking where this is going. So how do we get better? Any tips from this podcast?
Well, they don't give specific techniques, but they have some great takeaways. Remember that whole decisions or experiments thing?
Yeah.
That's huge. It helps us be more curious and flexible, you know?
Huh.
Instead of freaking out about being right, we can just explore.
Gather info, check out different options, see what happens. Like, we're giving ourselves permission to make mistakes and learn.
Exactly. And as we experiment, we start to figure out our own style. We learn what works for us, what our values are, and how to handle uncertainty. Every choice makes us more confident for the next one.
It's like anything else, right? The more you practice, the better you get. But what about when you're really stuck? Like, you just can't figure out what to do? Any strategies for that?
Of course, remember, we don't have to do this alone. Talking to friends, mentors, even therapists can be super helpful.
Just having someone to bounce ideas off of.
Exactly. They can help us see things differently. But Even with help, we got to give ourselves time. So often we rush into decisions, like we need an answer right now.
Oh, so true. I always feel like I need to have everything figured out immediately. Just adds to the stress.
But most decisions don't need an instant answer. Take your time, think things through, weigh your options, and you'll make better choices.
I know, you're right. Sometimes I just need to walk away for a bit, sleep on it, and things become clearer.
And pay attention to how you're feeling. If you're stressed or anxious, maybe don't make any big decisions then.
So take a break, chill out, get some perspective before diving into tough choices.
Exactly. Make decisions from a calm, grounded place. That way you can connect with your gut and make choices that feel right for you.
Man, this has been so eye-opening. I feel like I have a whole new way of looking at decisions. But, one question keeps popping up. What about the choices that feel impossible to make? Like, no matter how much you analyze or ask for advice, you just can't find the answer. What then?
That's a deep one. And it leads to a pretty profound idea. Sometimes the best decision is to surrender to the unknown.
Surrender. What does that even mean?
Let go of needing to control everything, accept that we can't predict the future or have all the answers, and trust that even if we mess up, we'll learn from it.
So it's about being okay with not knowing, trusting our ability to handle whatever happens, and believing that things will work out.
Exactly. Sometimes when we stop trying to force things and just go with the flow, the answers we've been searching for just show up.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. Like we're taking the pressure off ourselves and letting the journey guide us.
Exactly. And remember, you're not alone on this journey. We all have that inner voice, that intuition guiding us.
I love that. So instead of worrying about choosing wrong, we can trust the process, embrace the unknown, and believe that we're right where we're meant to be.
Beautifully said. Perfect way to wrap things up, don't you think?
Absolutely. To everyone listening, remember, making decisions doesn't have to be scary. It can be an adventure, a chance to grow and discover yourself. Embrace the uncertainty, trust your gut, and enjoy the ride.
And when you're facing a tough choice, take a breath. Remember what we talked about and know that the journey is just as important as the destination.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into decisions. We hope you found it as awesome as we did. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep embracing the journey.
And remember, the most fulfilling paths are often the ones we least expect.